Welcome to Mysteria. Where magic surrounds every amazing creature, where dragons rule skies above realms, and ancient bosses guard secrets that could reshape the world. Every corner of this land holds adventure, every realm a perilous wonder. From enchanted villages to forsaken tombs, mythical creatures await. Some will offer their power, but others will challenge your every step. From harnessing the fury of the elements to commanding the arcane forces, I will master every magical mod this land has to offer. Along this journey, I'll fight terrifying beasts, uncover hidden secrets, and rise to face the most formidable bosses Mysteria has ever known. Join me as we dive into the unknown, uncover the land's deepest mysteries, and become legends in the world of Mysteria. Throughout history, Minecraft has accumulated bunches upon bunches of magic mods. While most of them are pretty simple to understand, a lot of them are more technical, aiming for progression within the game. But what happens when you combine all of them together? Well, dear wizards and warriors, this is where our journey begins. Introducing Mysteria, a mod pack that I have created full of my favorite magic mods. Whether you're a knight in search of a worthy challenge, or a curious mind drawn to hidden mysteries, or maybe you just like pretty flowers, that's okay, me too, then Mysteria would be the perfect place for you. So adventurers, pack your sword, your armor, and maybe a sack or two, because we have a whole new world to explore. Chapter 1. A New Mysterious World. At first, the idea of spawning into a new magical world seemed so exciting. Endless possibilities, the chance to explore uncharted lands, but as soon as I realized I was completely clueless about this place, that dream quickly turned into fear. I had no idea what to expect from the environment, the creatures, or the magic that this world seemed to have. And to make matters worse, I hadn't exactly dived deep into the mods that govern this universe. So, as I stood there, heart pounding, the only thing that I could focus on was survival. The magic, enchantments, and whatever strange forces this world held would have to wait. Besides, I had to figure out how to not get eaten alive. I started my journey with the basics, cutting down trees, mining some stone, crafting a pickaxe. It all seemed like the standard start. But then something caught my attention. A few books had appeared in my inventory. They seemed like they were bound in strange shimmering covers. It turns out, these would be the guides for some of the magical systems of Mysteria that I would need. But there wasn't really time for that yet. I had to focus on more important things like not dying. After gathering some food, I quickly realized how badly I needed a bed. For the sun was already sinking, and I needed to keep moving before it got dark. But down by this river, I found a wizardy tower. If you truly know me, you'll know that I love wizards. And I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something valuable inside, just waiting for me. I impulsively sprinted towards the tower, my mind racing with the possibilities of what treasures I could get my hands on. Inside the tower, I found jewels that glimmered like the stars. But alas, these gems were involved in a mod that I had no idea how to use. So I tucked them away, hoping that they would be useful down the road. I mean, who knows, they might come in handy one day. After climbing to the top of the tower, I found a dusty old chest waiting for my arrival. And oh my gosh, I was ecstatic. I had thought to myself, this world might not be as bad as I thought, easy to explore and even easier to profit from. You've got to be kidding me. The good thing is that with the Corel Tombstone mod, you don't stay dead. Instead, you respawn as a ghost. As this mod acts as a safe net by putting all of your items into a gravestone, it still sends you back to your spawn point, ultimately initiating the Walk of Shame. But still, I can't believe that I already died in a world that I just arrived in. I mean, come on. But at least I know what to expect from this world now, and what it expects from me. As I traveled through the forest, I started thinking of all the necessities that I didn't have, that I needed to acquire. Those being a bed, a backpack, and a location to start building a home. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, night came alive with monsters lurking around in every corner. It was both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, the sheer number of creatures made things dangerous. No armor, no protection, just me against the mobs. On the other hand, I needed strength to craft a backpack, and these monsters were my best shot at getting it. Plus, it was a perfect chance to practice my combat skills. But I had to be careful. One wrong move and I'd be toast. The next morning, I collected the remaining wool in order to craft a bed. But due to the night prior, my health was limited to just 2 hearts, so I needed to be extra careful. Oh my god. Well, we're back on our ghosty feet and on my way to grab my stuff again. Why do I do this to myself? Anyways, after reaching a plains biome, I stumbled upon a raider's hut and decided to see what kind of loot was kept inside. To my surprise, I found a diamond cutlass. Okay, this was pretty cool. I needed an upgrade for my stone sword. Along the path, I spotted another raider's hut, but before I could get close to it, a dragon emerged from the nearby river, and it wasted no time in hurling its icy clusters towards me. Knowing that I would surely perish from this encounter, I did the one thing that I do best. I skedaddled. After running from the dragon like a coward, I saw another structure that somewhat resembled the fort. After seeing the amount of defenses that this fort had, I just knew that it was riddled with treasure. I mean, you don't just build a massive fort with nothing of value to protect inside, right? As I approached the fort, I noticed the illager banners plastered all over the stone walls, which really made me hesitate about entering. But I had to redeem myself. After running from a dragon, this was my chance to show this world who's boss. But before I entered, I stole the remaining hay bales that were piled up outside.
Great, now none of us can watch TV. That's my season!
Oh, and I also set my respawn point right outside the fort. The one thing that I noticed about this fort was that there was no illagers in sight, which was pretty weird considering that there was... After defeating the lone illager, I looted some of the chests in the fort, but when I reached the top floor, I found an inscription table, a workstation used to craft and apply spells to a spellbook. I decided to take it with me so that I can use it later for purposes when I actually had magic to use. But right when I was about to leave, I heard the sound of an evoker above me. I noticed that there was a path of shelves that could be used to get me up to the roof. So I jumped from shelf to shelf all the way up to the ceiling, and when I emerged from the roof, I quickly launched a volley of attacks towards the evoker. It was right then and there when I realized this was not an evoker. This was an arch-evoker. Yep, not an evoker. When I retrieved my items, I continued with a volley of attacks and ended up knocking the arch-evoker down the edge of the fort, but I had to finish the job, for defeating one of the 6 wizard mini-bosses would definitely help redeem my cowardly actions.
Wait! What's that? I think it's your honor!
Where?
I tried to move my bed to a safer location, but before I could do so, I was already being hunted down by the arch-evoker's minions, so I distanced myself from him instead of rushing at him head-on to avoid critical damage, but it was no use. Apparently, the arch-evoker's spells were insanely powerful, even at long range, and he knew that I was at a disadvantage. With him and his minions keeping pressure on me, I ran away, but...
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
After recovering my items, I charged at him, slicing away with my cutlass, trying to dodge his attacks. I just knew his health was dwindling. I started realizing how much strength he had, and how superior it was to mine. After a couple of slashes, I once again fell to his power, but I wasn't finished. When his HP was at critical levels, he started drinking health potions. This was my chance, for while he was in this state, he wasn't able to use his spells against me. I've come way too far to let this evoker reverse all of the progress that I've made. But soon enough, with a couple of more slashes, I had done it. I defeated the arch-evoker. My first mini-boss victory was successful. And even though I died countless times, I was still overflown with joy. Waiting where the arch-evoker had been defeated was rare ink, along with an evocation rune. This marked a part of my journey where I proved to Mysteria that I can surpass anything that she throws at me. The only thing left to do was to keep going. As I continued through the Blue Forest, I made way north to try and find a village so that I can peacefully prepare myself a backpack, food, and other supplies in order to find a fitting place to build a home. I would also be able to meet new inhabitants of this world, like these cute little whirly sprigs that I met in the valley. I wish I could take them with me. When I finally arrived at the village, I was greeted with a sense of comfort, for I knew that it would be protected by iron golems and light mages. In the center of it all was a waystone, a landmark where I could warp to and from other familiar waystones. The villagers gathered in the central hall, but while greeting me with open arms, they wanted to warn me about potential threats that might be among them. One of which was truly haunting. Earlier that evening, a local lumberjack had gone out to gather his daily stock, but while he was in the woods, he claimed to have seen a tree come to life and walk in the distance. He ran back to the village in fear and told the other villagers. Now, everyone in the village was in total panic. Now, obviously I don't buy it. Trees can't walk, at least as far as I know. Either way, a walking tree isn't going to stop me from getting the rest of my string from my backpack. Anyways, after defeating No Way Where the Nifty, I acquired the last piece of string and returned to the village to sleep. The next morning, while using the villager's crafting table, I finally made a backpack. With this comes a whole lot of potential. This is because backpacks could be upgraded in so many different ways. All that was left for me to do was put all of my junk inside of it. Huh? Wait, what are you guys... What? Oh no. The villagers alerted me that there was a threat at the town center. Could it be? The walking tree? No, they don't exist. So what could have possibly taken out all of the iron golems and the mages? A cyclops. Massive creatures. Said to once have challenged the gods themselves. Yet I was the one who had to defeat it. The villagers had helped me in so many ways that my one duty was to protect them from this very threat. But without the help of golems or mages, this would almost be impossible to do. As soon as it caught sight of me, the giant charged at me with full force. I tried to go after the feet, but the giant picked me up and ended me with one bite. But I couldn't give up. After recovering, I charged towards the Cyclops, who was preoccupied with devouring a golem. It swallowed it whole. But it was no use. My dagger was too short for this kind of fight. The giant chased after me, destroying everything in its path. At this point, I was panicking. I had nothing that would help me in this situation. Then I had an idea. Throughout the village, there were plenty of chests with huge amounts of loot. I just needed to find something, anything that could be of use to me. And then, with the tiniest bit of luck, there it was. A diamond spear enchanted with Sanctified 3. Its range was perfect dealing with the Cyclops, and the regeneration was just an awesome upgrade. With the Cyclops cornered, I finished off the beast with my new spear and single-handedly saved the village. And phew, what a rush. If it weren't for this spear, I would have never been able to vanquish the walking tree. Also, something that I discovered is that you can actually dual-wield weapons. Though ineffective, you can really look like an action hero. Well, it was time to say goodbye to this village and its people. After all, I still needed to find the perfect location to build a home. While traveling through the forest, I was wondering about the Cyclops. I mean, I've heard of these ancient mythos, these stories of old containing the same beast during the Golden Era. While some Cyclopes are more civilized, such as those in Hesiod's Theogony, who were divine craftsmen for the gods, there is an account in Homer's Odyssey of a Cyclops named Polyphemus, acting as a savage solitary being, much like the one that we had just vanquished. The differences between these two descriptions of the creatures are extremely distinctive. The Theogony states that the Cyclopes were great-hearted and strong-spirited, that they were the children of the heavens and the earth, and that they were recognized by their single eye representing focus in their craftsmanship. But, according to Homer, the Cyclopes live without care. They have no gods, no councils or laws, and they have no sense of agriculture. The food that they harvest is unsown from unplowed land, and left dormant in caves and mountains. As you can see here, just because we had one rather violent encounter with the Cyclops, does not necessarily mean that all of them are barbarian monsters. Maybe. As I made my way through the taiga biome, a dragon had emerged from the foggy water. Perhaps it was the same dragon from before. Mark my words, I would not run away this time.
Liar, pants on fire!
I reset my spawn point and headed down to the lake. The dragon was centered in the water, but it was waiting for my arrival. As I dove in, the beast circled me and it rapidly swam towards my direction. I did my best to keep my distance, but just enough to where I can still inflict damage. I thought that I would definitely have the advantage due to the dragon's lack of speed in the water, and there was some truth to this. He was not able to attack consistently and was not able to get a hold of me, but after a couple of jabs, the dragon took to the skies. I finally realized that dragons specialize in aerial combat and ranged attacks. With his icy breath, he froze my feet to the bottom of the lake, preventing me from moving. My turtle shell helmet had already been destroyed, and I couldn't swim up to get some air. His plan wasn't to attack me head-on, but to drown me. Luckily, my regeneration spear was keeping me at high HP for the time being, but the enchantment would only activate if I could successfully strike the dragon. After surfacing, I had no choice but to flee. My health was so low that one more attack would end me. But as I attempted to swim away, with my back turned, the beast pounced on me, once again freezing my limbs together. And when it looked like that this was the end, the dragon had gotten a hold of me with its massive jaw. This was the home stretch. With stab after stab, he finally let loose. With his guard down, I released the final blow, and took down the winged creature, earning the achievement Dragon Slayer. But this would be the first of many. Upon observation, this dragon was probably around stage 2 out of 5, which meant that it was a lot smaller than the others. Regardless, I looted its body for dragon parts. After a good night's sleep, the next morning I crafted dragon armor. But for some reason I only crafted the helmet. I don't know why. But at least it looks amazing and it offers protection from any other monsters that might be ahead. In the very lake where I had slain my first dragon, rested the most magnificent cherry grove that I've ever laid my eyes on. Upon exiting the cave that was directly under the cherry grove, I had finally discovered the area that I would build my house in. It will be right upon the land above this cove. The cove was surrounded by a natural wall of cliffs that served as an excellent foundation for a base. And the large pink trees, while acting as a mighty guardian against winged foe, looked and felt amazing. I just couldn't comprehend how perfect this was. It was great. After rummaging around through the forest a while and trying to think about what style I would want to build my house in, I stumbled upon another mountain village. But hopefully this one didn't have any creepy crawlies that could ruin my day. Okay, look, it's not that I don't like a good battle every once in a while, but after dealing with 3 rather tiresome enemies, I do believe that I deserve a break. I mean, come on, I fought an evil wizard, a one-eyed giant, and an ice-breathing lizard. Regardless, I do love seeing the diversity that this world has, and it also makes me excited to see what other mysteries I may stumble upon. Speaking of which, as I mined through the local caves for raw materials, I started to wonder why this world was called Mysteria. You see, the word mystery is quite mysterious on its own. The word derives from mysterium in Latin and mysterion in Greek. The Latin variation means hidden truth only revealed through God, and the Greek variation means secret rite only admitted to those who have been initiated. An example of this would be the Eleusinian mysteries. These were secret religious ceremonies dedicated to the goddesses Demeter and Persephone. In fact, writers, poets, and artists often invoke Eleusis as an important symbol of hidden knowledge, transformation, and rebirth. Perhaps the same goes to say for this world. Now, obviously the true origins of the name Mysteria came from, well, me. But it's nice to speculate about the connection between fantasy and reality. After all, a myth is not a lie that we tell, but a truth that we live, the hidden root from which our reality grows. You also might be wondering why I'm not attacking these dragons. 1, I'm not just a cold-blooded killer. And 2, these aren't actually dragons. These are called amphitheres. Amphitheer? Amphitheer. Coming from the Greek root amphi, meaning both, and pteron, meaning winged, indicating the 2 wings on the limbless serpent, the amphitheer is a heraldic invention. This creature may have been inspired from the myth
Quetzalcoatl
of the Aztecs, their feathered serpent god. But let's leave it at that for now. I have a plan for a video all about encountering and discussing the several creatures that dwell in this land. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, you should consider leaving a like. We've barely scratched the surface on this mod pack, and I cannot wait to explore the rest of it with you. Alright, now that that's out of the way, after scouting some of the areas in the forest, I started collecting wood to build my house. I wanted the design of my house to complement the surrounding pink trees, so naturally, I conjured up the idea of a pink and dark oak cottage with a tower.
How original.
Specifically, I want the tower to be attached to the side of the house. I did some research, and this is actually called a turret tower. These are typically found in older Victorian homes, mimicking the architecture of medieval-style castles. The overall layout of the house is going to be pretty small, as I will expand on the property with new areas for magical practices and mastery, as well as areas for farming, potions, and even combat training. But first and foremost, I needed to create an open space on this hill. I really started liking the area that I picked to start building. It was a very nice and flat foundation. It also had the most incredible view of the mountains up above. I really enjoyed the sun rays peeking out through the leaves. They were just so comforting. When the sun started to set, I took a minute to move items into my chest from my backpack. I also prepared some bread from the stolen hables that I got from that Illager fort. While some extra food was cooking, I found a ruined portal nearby. It had some items that I didn't know existed, so me and the wiki are gonna have some quality time together. I also took a trip to the village to see what it had to offer. Since I had a surplus of paper, I crafted a map and upgraded it into a map atlas. I get that there are more convenient minimap mods out there, such as Zeros, but since this one meant that you get to build upon your world map, it felt more involved with the player. I also love the idea of adding several rooms in my upcoming home tailored for all sorts of skills, such as cartography, enchanting, and maybe even a library. I mean, I already have so many books about magic, I might as well have a dedicated space for them. When my food was done cooking, I headed up to the mountain nearby to scavenge for more ores. While doing so, I ended up tunneling into an underground lush river, and since I didn't feel like swimming, I crafted a boat and started rowing to the nearest cavern. I arrived at what looked like the fiery depths of hell. I mean, just look at this place, there's skulk and blackstone everywhere. But there was also a strange wooden box hidden right below. It looked like it could be a possible house of some sort, so I did the one thing that any sane person would do. While someone did seem to live here for a time, there was no sign of life anywhere. But whoever it was, it looked like they were researching nearby caves. I knew this because there was a spelunkery table stationed inside. Spelunca in Latin is a word for cave, so spelunkery is a word for cave exploration. You can see in the footage that I have no idea what I'm doing, but after destroying a few ancient artifacts, I discovered that these tablets reveal information about nearby caves. Though it being a very interesting and challenging process, I ended up just taking the station with me and working on that later. As I like to say, that's a problem for tomorrow me. Also, who knew that the most fiery, dangerous cave would be the perfect place for mining diamonds? While I was still in the cave, I collected some pieces of obsidian so that I could build another portal and an enchantment table. When that was done, I returned to my lovely camp, and then it was time for a very well-deserved tool upgrade. To get started, I made a very simple enchanting setup that I'll eventually upgrade with an enchanting infuser. The mod creates a very special enchanting table that allows you to choose your own upgrades, at a very expensive cost. The first step was to obviously craft the infuser, so I needed to get my hands on crying obsidian. Luckily, we already came across some on our way here, but knowing how rare this stuff is, it would be a while before we even come close to crafting the infuser, which I kind of expected. Back at the base, I upgraded my backpack so I can carry more items at once. I took some time just to meditate on how to start building my house, what materials I'll use, what supplies I'll need, etc. But one thing that I knew for certain was that I would need Silk Touch. And rather than relying on my extremely good luck, I figured that I'd just get the enchantment from villagers. I built a pen and traveled to the village to hunt them down. It wouldn't be long before I found some, so I picked them up and carried them to my base, regardless of how silly it looks.
Please put me down.
Okay, I know that I said that I would try to get Silk Touch, but for some reason my greedy little self wanted to go mining again. So I hopped in a boat and started searching for the nearest cave. Eventually, I found one, and what it contained was astonishing. According to my research, lunar craters are fabled wells of power within Mysteria. They say that only a handful of lunar stones can reshape space itself, and with the use of these stones, legendary weapons can be crafted. Although this task was way out of my league of magical knowledge, you can't just show me a shiny glowing rock and not expect me to take it. After mining the lunar stone, defeating some monsters, and meeting a little goblin trader, I finally exited the cave. But alas, I was welcomed with the horrors of the night. I swiftly dealt with them and hastily sailed homeward, starting to question if that trip was really worth it. When I arrived at the mainland, I encountered some tiny pixie houses, and let me just be the first to mention how adorable they are. I mean, just look at them, they're so cute. And after a long day of hard work, it was finally time to acquire Silk Touch and in turn, build my house. Okay, let's get this over with. Why is it taking so long? What? What is going on? Why are there so many of them? Oh my gosh. What do I do? Somebody please help me. Oh my god, it just keeps going for miles. How is this even possible? I might need to load a backup. Let's try this again. Alright, though some problems may have occurred, we are still good to go on Project Cottage. While I still have yet to apply Silk Touch on my tools, I figured that I should take a quick peek into the nether before venturing out to collect Blackstone. Monster infested as usual. After spawning, I immediately caught glimpse of a structure in the distance. But while being visually impaired by the ashy fog, I couldn't make out exactly what it was. So naturally, I skipped along the bone white quartz all the way to the structure. But something felt off. Although this place looked very well protected with its massive walls and towering pillars, it felt almost empty, asleep. It even has lava protruding out as if to drown any trespassers in molten rock. There were no guards, no defenses, just the eerie humming of the nether's atmosphere. Usually large structures such as this one have some special purpose. So why didn't anything happen when I set foot onto the fortress? The netherite monstrosity. Resting in the heart of the soul blacksmith, this massive boss lies dormant within the depths of the nether. Some say that when you defeat the monstrosity, you will be rewarded with the blessed power of the soul forge and its ancient creators. Though being one of the easiest bosses to defeat in Ender's Cataclysm, I was extremely unprepared for battle. Luckily, in order to awaken the beast, you would need to be up close. So, I quickly retreated in fear of waking the creature from its slumber. For that will be an adventure for another time. So for some reason, after surfacing to the overworld, the portal spit me out into the fiery cave located directly below my base. I mined the obsidian and curiously ventured deeper into the cave. It was an area that I had not yet explored, and I just hate the idea of missing some valuable goodies. I mean, it's already been established that more hot equals more diamonds. Soon enough, I came across a mob spawner with a piece of crying obsidian on top of it. This would be the last piece that I need to craft the enchanting infuser, and with that, better tools. As you can see, I was very happy. But that wasn't all. Down the tunnel, I encountered some friendly little faces. I had planned on making a little garden with an axolotl pond, so this was just perfect. The next stop was another wooden box just like last time, but this one was a little different. Maybe it just got burned from the lava, but this one didn't have a spelunkery table inside. Instead, I found a runic tablet. Now, you may be asking, what is a runic tablet? Well, I don't know. But we will eventually find out together. Once I had arrived at the end of the cave, I dove into what seemed to be an underwater system of small caverns that contained uranium. I mined a couple of the shiny green metal, and of course this might have been a pretty dumb thing to do, because for the next couple of minutes, I was irradiated, which meant that I couldn't passively regain health. The effect would wear off if I had no uranium in my inventory, but I didn't really know this at the time, so I was very much panicking, wondering why the effect wouldn't go away, so much so that I placed down one of my emergency waystones so that I can get home safely. When I got back to my base, I immediately started to work on that infuser. This would be a massive upgrade for my future tools, but unfortunately with great power comes a great amount of research. With the combination of the enchanting infuser and the apotheosis mod, tools, weapons, and armor can be upgraded by any of the available enchantments. But the downside is that in order to get the most out of this skill, one must learn about what I like to call the Trinity of Enchanting. You see, apotheosis completely overhauls the way that enchanting works in Mysteria. It adds a total of 3 important factors that are involved in the enchanting process. These being magical energy, pure chaos, and ethereal purity. Eterna, Quanta, and Arcana. Eterna acts as a power gauge determining how high the level of the enchantment would be. Quanta is a lot more complex, but basically it's a randomness factor that can either increase or decrease an enchantment's experience cost depending on whether or not you choose to upgrade Quanta. In other words, it's gambling. And finally, Arcana affects the rarity in which enchantments proceed. The higher the level of Arcana you have, the more likely it is to roll a rare enchantment. It also increases the capacity for enchantments that you can put on a single tool. But for the case with the infuser, for now we need to focus on Eterna, as it is in my opinion the most important of the 3. So in order to increase our current Eterna, I introduced more bookshelves to our setup. Each bookshelf adds 1 Eterna level, and later on we can craft even more powerful bookshelves to get it to the max. Also, while talking about enchanting, I had a rather sudden realization. You see, the main reason why I wanted to get my hands on Silk Touch was because I wanted to get stone. Because when you mine regular stone, you receive cobblestone. So if you use Silk Touch, you receive stone in its natural form. But instead of manually and tiresomely using villagers to get Silk Touch, I could alternatively use Smelter's Touch, which smelts any item that you mine. I seriously could have thought of this way earlier. But anyways, I upgraded my pickaxe with Smelter's Touch and other enchantments. Now all I had to do was go and collect some stone. I really need to get started on that house, because I'm running out of room over here. I couldn't believe how fast this thing could mine. It cut through stone like it was butter. The enchantments were definitely worth the time, and all that effort will go into creating my beautiful home. Not only did I go mining for stone, but I also grabbed some calcite, blackstone, and cherrywood on the way as well. Soon enough, I collected all the materials that I needed. Now, it's finally time to start building my house. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Finally, I can enjoy a nice meal inside of the comforts of my own home. And although we have comfortably settled down in this land, we still have only had a taste of what Mysteria has to offer. This is only just the beginning, but now that we've gone through the hardest part of our journey, it's time to delve into magic. So, if you enjoyed our adventure so far, and you're ready to dive deeper into the unknown, to take the next big step in our journey, Be sure to ready your staffs, because only the bravest mages can cast the most powerful spells.